from everyone's houses once again. I normally have quite a diatribe at the beginning of these shows, don't I? But today I'm just going to say welcome to Scotty Nicholls, 7 times British champion.
Thank you. Well, no one else cheered, so I thought I'd do it myself.
Well, why not? Guys out there listening, you got any questions for Scotty? In the meantime, we will plough on. Scott first started Speedway, age 11 at Mildenhall. Now this is all right because I got it off your website, Scotty. So, World Team Cup at Paul, we're going to ask you about the red lights situation.
Okay.
Favourite riders, Billy Hamill and John Cook. Born in Ipswich and started grass track racing, became national schoolboy champion in 1993. He's Coventry's most successful skipper, skippering them to 5 trophies in 3 seasons, 2004 to 2007. Won the Elite League with his hometown Ipswich in 2010. We're also going to ask you whether Hans Anderson's ever apologised.
No.
No, fair enough.
You never know. It gets on social media to get him on the case. Let's see if we can get an apology. We're all right now. We're made up. So
Okay, good. British champion in 2002, 2003, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2011 and 2012. You must like those statistics.
I'd rather there was weren't the blanks in between would have been nice, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
And under 21 champ in 1998 and 1999. There you go.
You have done your research. I'm impressed.
Well, we do. Well,
you missed out the big one though. You missed out the 98 treble with Ipswich.
Oh,
How
come
did you
on,
miss
Joe.
that out?
You give him one job.
Team in history, huh?
Wasn't on your website, mate.
You give him one job.
Well, yeah.
So you
Don't
can't
look at my
blame.
website. There
Yeah,
you go.
you can't blame me. You've got to blame yourself for that one.
Should have gone to Wikipedia.
So I'm going to jump straight in with the first question, and then I'm going to leave pretty much the rest to Matt because he can't wait. I can see him straining at the leash there. But I want to know about the red light at Paul World Team Cup.
Oh man, what a night! Jeez, it was horrendous. I mean, especially for it to come so close at the end. But it's just, you know what, even though I was still pretty experienced at the time, it's just I remember I was in 3rd place, going into 3rd and 4th bend at Paul, and it was like a last lap, and went in and just saw somebody who's obviously taking a picture just directly head on. So the red light on their camera was just bang right in line with the fence, and I saw it and kind of just, something's happened. I thought maybe someone fell off behind me or something. And so I slowed up, and then Nicky Pedersen looked as well. I'm pretty sure it was Nicky. He slowed up as well, but then he kind of gassed it off and went on, and I realised it was a mistake too late. And, you know, I think the cruelest part is that the referee had seen the situation as well, but obviously the race had gone past 3/4 distance or whatever it was and couldn't really run the race. So yeah, it was. I weren't a happy bunny at that point because we would have come so close, and then obviously it come down to that last heat where we desperately needed the win, and I was in that heat.
Well, I mean, that was incredible. I mean, question that I'd sort of like. Sorry, Matt, I'm going to let you go. The question that sort of follows on from that for me a little bit is that, as a rider, is what are you looking at? Because I work one of the bends at Birmingham. I have a red flag for my sins. And so do you look for is it the red flags you look for, or is it for the lights, or what is it that you actually look for?
I'm not going to tell you now if you work at Birmingham because you're going to try and trick me now. No, do you know what? You're not specifically looking for anything as such. I mean, you're focused on your race, but it's just sometimes you've only got to have I wouldn't say a lack of concentration, but it's a split second. You know, that's why they've stopped it, because it can be something that's a lot of the time it's just out the corner of your eye. You see a red light and you naturally kind of wide in your head, red light, danger, stop. Obviously, a flag is in some ways kind of more of an easier one to spot because somebody physically has to, manhandle that flag and wave it. But at the same time, if you know, there's been situations where people have been staying a little bit lazy with the flag, and the wind has come along and the flag has waved itself, and you got these instances. So it's a tricky one, because you always tell, you know, after that it's like, right, you know, you keep racing until it's blatantly obvious you have to stop. Obviously, a red light and a flag is there to warn you of danger. Somebody could have been, you know, could have crashed in the next corner. It's there to stop you and cause an incident. So, no, you ultimately you're focused on where you want to be on the track and where you're going.
So I'm not going to get any advantage out of that one. Fair enough.
Definitely not now.
Matt?
Well, Scott, let's just looking back on your career now. I mean, I've gone by your website as well. You made your debut on the 29th of June 1994 for Peterborough, at Long Eaton, of all places. I mean, what do you remember about your debut in Speedway?
Mate, it was a mixed one, because my dad's dad, my granddad, died that afternoon. So it was kind of wasn't really the best of start to make my debut. So I was kind of full with all these, you know, emotions of being excited about making my first ever professional adult debut. And, you know, but yeah, my granddad had just passed away that afternoon. So, yeah, fair play to my dad, you know, because obviously I couldn't drive, I was only 16. You know, he still committed to taking me to the race at Long Eaton, and we went there. So I remember walking in there, it was kind of weird, you know, when you're young, and, you know, I was only a young lad, pretty small in stature as well in some ways, and unbelievably nervous, excited, and you go in there and it was quite a daunting place to go. You know, it's on the back straight. It was really cool in one way, but on the back straight, there was loads of cars would park up on there, and they'd all flash their headlights after the race, which is something quite cool. But, you know, I remember that the stadium was quite rough, and there was quite like Martin Dixon. There's some quite formidable riders there that were known to kind of, you know, ruffle a few feathers, and, you know, me being this spotty little kid turning up was a bit like, oh, okay. Track looked a little bit rough and one thing or another, but actually loved it. I really liked the track. It was a little bit patchy, but it was a cool track. I really enjoyed it, and I think I got 6 points or something like that. I think I did okay. I had a couple of really good battles, and yeah, so it was a bit of a mixed emotion for my debut, but obviously one, you know, I definitely won't forget it.
Who was in the Peterborough team with you, Scott?
Eric Monaghan, Jason Gage, Sam Teasar. I can't remember if Darren Shan was at reserve for me then or not. But I think Jason Gage was in the team. Was that Stoney was in the team, but he'd broken his ankle. So I think we had like rider replacement for him. How many is that? Who else says me? One other. I'm trying to think of the other one, wasn't there? Oh, Ryan Sullivan. Yeah. So it was
obviously quite a few names in there, of course, that went on to have pretty good careers as well as yourself. I mean, Ryan Sullivan, obviously a GP winner, and Sam Teasar, of course, who was a stalwart at British Speedway for many years. I mean, they're the sort of guys that you would have learned things off, I would imagine.
Definitely so. I mean, at the time, I mean, Sam Teasar was, you know, in that, because that was the first division then, which is equivalent to the championship now. He was on fire. You know, he was riding very, very well, smooth on the bike, and, you know, he was a nice guy to watch. But Eric Monaghan was a good guy to have in the team. You know, he was obviously that bit more older and experienced. And, you know, I always remember, and it's a bit of advice that I still hand on to a lot of young riders, that he gave to me. It's a pretty well known fact, especially when I was young, that I hated big tracks. They used to intimidate me. I didn't like them because I was growing up on the small tracks, and, you know, going to Peterborough from my home. So that's why I went to Peterborough. You know, I had options to go other places, but I was like, you know what? If I'm going to deal with this situation of me and big tracks, the only way to do it is hit it week in, week out. And at the time, Peterborough used to be proper deep. It was a tough track to ride. And I was scared and I was intimidated, and Eric Monaghan could see that. And I remember one day after the meeting, he said, right, I just want you to go out there. I want you to do 4 laps. Don't care what line you're on, where you are, but I just want you to do 4 laps flat out. Don't shut off. Just do it. And I did. And from that moment on, I wasn't a race winner, but it just clicked something. And I've used that on so many other riders that I've seen struggling. It's not always about being on the quickest line on the track or being in the quickest place, but it's about getting those mental processes going and actually getting the feel of the bike being flat out and kind of using a bit of that aggression to get your confidence up again. So I'll always remember that from Eric, and I'll always be very grateful for that.
Well, I mean, you're impressed in that season. I mean, just over 3.5 average, and enough really for Ipswich, of course, to take a punt on you. And of course, with the one big league starting in '95, of course, you joined your hometown club with the likes of Chris Louis there and people like that. So that was a big step for you, really, racing against some of the best riders in the world at that stage.
It was definitely, and and I think for quite some time, I mean, my away average was, especially at Peterborough, was way higher than my home average, and I kind of almost prided myself on that for a period of time, that my kind of away average and my home average would be very similar. But yeah, going to Ipswich in '95, ultimately that's where I wanted to be back at. You know, that was my hometown club, and they were the ones that signed me when I was 16, loaned me out to Peterborough. And that was when it was one big league, and that was the last time I rode a lot of the tracks that are in the championship now, because obviously of that one league. So a lot of the Scottish tracks and Newcastle and places like that, I didn't get to ride them for an awful long time again. But that was a fun year. We had a good team. It's certainly different doing the one big league and going to all the different tracks all over the country. It was something that was fun to do. But no, it was nice for me to be back at my hometown club.
What were your memories of the one big league? Because there's been talk over recent years, of course, of possibly that being brought back into play in British Speedway. I mean, it was a big schedule really, and it was a lot of meetings for a lot of riders to take on. So I mean, is that something that you think would work in the current era? I've
had this debate with lots of people. There's mixed opinions on it. I mean, I think in some respects now, because we've got less team. I mean, back then we had a lot more teams around, so it was a much bigger league. I think, and you've got the bigger void with the finances between the clubs. But I think now, my opinion was, especially now because we've got the TV involved and things like that, I was a fan of the one big league, because I felt from TV point of view that it would be better to be going to a different club each week, as opposed to saying, oh, we've got Swindon Wolves tonight, and next week we've got Swindon Pool, and then we're back to, it's. I don't want to knock it, but because it's a small league now at the top, I thought it would be nice to open up to one big league, maybe home and away twice, something like that, so that the riders themselves can get more races, but also it makes it more attractive to bring other riders over. I always want to look after the English riders, but the fact is we don't have enough good English riders right now to fill the whole league. So in order to fill one big league, you need to bring riders in. And I think if a rider knows that he's going to be able to commit to 40 odd meetings over here, that's more attractive for him to come and base himself here and commit to here. Whereas if you're only going to get 20 meetings and the money here is not as good as it is abroad, you're going to struggle to get riders to make that commitment.
Yeah, because you made good progress with Ipswich over the following years that you were there, and of course you already alluded to 1998, a fantastic year for the Witches. I mean, looking at that team that you had, I mean, you had Tony Ricartson, Thomas Golliver, and Chris Louis as your top three riders. I mean, wow. I mean, I can remember when that team was announced, I think everybody was sort of like goggle-eyed really at how much stronger Ipswich looked on paper than anybody else. I mean, that must have been a wonderful memory for you, racing with those riders in that season.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, I think when they announced Golub, I mean, I think that was the biggest thing, because they got him at a scoop. I mean, I think there was a financial deal there that kind of took a lot of pressure off Ipswich, and then there's also the fact that he came in on a very low average, and hence why he was there. But it was a, I don't think I've ever been a team that had that much dominance in my life. I mean, literally everywhere you went, I mean, we were pretty much unbeatable everywhere, and it's almost like you turn up at the race and you could see the other riders, the other teams just be like, oh my God, It was just, like I said, those top three, I mean, they were vying for the World Championship as well. It wasn't like they were kind of low-end riders. And then we had some decent backup. That I was in there, Tony Sparb was in there riding good, so I was Clown, Ben Howe. I mean, we had a solid team to back up. And I know for me, I was really trying to break through, and I was in I think I rode number 2 for pretty much most of the season. I got heat 15 like on the odd couple of occasions, and it was like, man, like, you got heat 15. Either one of them had binned it, or you had an amazing night to get heat 15. But the one question a lot of people always ask me is, being in a team like that, you must have learned so much, but you didn't really. All you could learn is what you could observe yourself and watch, because at that time they were so focused on trying to win a world championship, and it was healthy, but there was obviously a rivalry between them. So they were kind of, although it was a good team spirit, they were focused on their own job. And then every meeting, it was, especially Tony in particular, was trying to be better, trying to be quicker. And you could see when a Grand Prix was coming up, that, like, the switch was already turning. His mind was already focused on that Saturday night. So all I could learn from that was just admiring the determination and the skill on the bike. It wasn't so much you really picked up lots from them, like I said, because they were in their own game at that point.
And then really, aside from a 2-year stint at Poole, you remained with Ipswich until the end of the 2004 season. And then you got the move to Coventry, and Coventry was really, I think, where they probably saw the best days of you, would you say, Coventry?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, I think moving to Poole was a huge move for me, and it's something that was another real kickstart of my career. Just come off the back of that 98 season, so many people were like, why do you want to move away from Ipswich? I said, you know what, I've been in Ipswich for a long time. I need something new. I need a new challenge. I want to spread my wings. I was only 20 at the time. I said, I need to test other stuff. I need to learn another track. I need to be around other people. I need to get away from my hometown. As much as nice, it's almost like a comfort blanket, and I needed to get rid of it. And it was a big year for me. I really kind of felt like my career came on a lot down at Poole, and that was when Matt Ford and Mike Golding first took it over. And they did a fantastic job of running it. Midlow was a brilliant team manager. Still have an awful lot of time and respect for Midlow. Still a good friend. Next day, then after that, went back to Ipswich for a period of time. And again, I got itchy feet. Felt I needed to move before I got stale, and went to Coventry. And Coventry was a fantastic club. I mean, when Sandu was in charge there, and with Colin Pratt, they ran an unbelievably tight ship. Everything was done spot on. The track was well prepared, and yeah, I think it's fair to say I had probably one of my best runs was at Coventry. I love being part of the team, and being captain of another successful team was an honour for me.
I mean, talking about Coventry, I mean, unfortunately, we've seen again this weekend a further deterioration in the Brandon site. I think there's still a lot of debate and a lot of unsure about whether Coventry are going to be able to get back into Brandon. But I know from reading the report that they've put together, people like Jeff Davis and of course Dave Rowe, that there's still a huge amount of passion for Speedway to be returned to Coventry, and of course to be returned to Brandon as well, because Speedway needs clubs like Coventry, because they are one of the big clubs in the country. There's no doubt about that.
Definitely.
Oh, mate, they certainly are, and I think I have to take my hat off to Jeff Davies and Dave Rowe and all the people involved with that. I mean, God, Jeff in particular. I mean, he's working. That's a full-time job when he's just doing it out of love and passion, and Speedway relies on people like that and thrives on it. And so, I know myself and all the other clubs are grateful for people like that. But yeah, it's I desperately hope they can save Coventry. Like you say, it's a club that's got such a strong heritage and such a successful club, and it's one of the clubs that so many other clubs and people looked up to and held with an awful lot of respect. So to see Coventry go would be desperately sad. So fingers crossed they can salvage it and do something about it. It's just such a shame that years back they had the opportunity, the BSPA didn't buy it, and that could have been the headquarters. I mean, how cool would that have been to have? They could have the offices, and that could have been the British base of Speedway, but hey ho.
I mean, during your time at Coventry, of course, that was when you were sort of establishing yourself in the Grand Prix as well. And I can remember when you rode at the Millennium Stadium in the first GP in 2001. And of course, I think you won the first heat there. And then, really unlucky, you had an engine failure while in a comfortable, I think it was a second position in your last ride, which put you out of the meeting. But I mean, to be riding in the first meeting at a stadium like that, and to go down into history as the man who won the first race at the Millennium Stadium, I mean, that must be something that you treasure as well. Oh,
definitely. I mean, Cardiff was huge. I mean, God, I'm talking to you now, and I can feel the goosebumps of just what it felt like. I mean, that kind of was a kickstart of a new era for Speedway. I don't think many people would have thought we'd be having these, one-off tracks in these huge stadiums in these big cities. And fair play to them. I think anyone who can remember Cardiff early doors, man, it was like a minefield. I mean, literally, it was every lap you would go around just determined to win, but at the same time just going, okay, we've got another lap. Let's just hold on. And yeah, I remember that semi-final. I think the semi-final was rerun, actually. I think it was probably almost the last lap that the engine went. And that was a shame. But yeah, definitely, I can remember that first race very clearly, and that was something that was pretty cool to be able to do.
I mean, going through your website, I hadn't actually realised, Scott, how many clubs in the UK you'd actually ridden for, to be honest. I'd forgotten some of these. you moved to Ipswich, of course, in 2008 and had a pretty good season there, 10-point average, and then I think a fair to say a controversial decision the following year when you decided not to start the season in the UK, and you had a really disappointing start in the GP series, and of course you ended up coming back to Coventry. But of course, I think that one season you're probably best remembered for the little disagreement that you had with Emil at Cardiff.
That was a year and a half, wasn't it? It was diplomatic. That I had a shocker of a year. Do you know what? It's I don't regret it because it's unless you try these things in life, you never know. It was a learning curve. I kind of thought, you know what, racing Sweden, Poland have that regularity of just racing a couple of times a week and focus on just trying to be more relaxed and being in shape and test if I need to. On paper, it worked, and for some rides it does. You can see in the Grand Prix now, a lot of the boys now don't race in the UK, and it works for them. For me, it didn't. You know, I'm kind of one of those riders that you get to know yourself. I need to think less and ride more. You still have to have your brain switched on, but I needed to ride more. Had I made that decision later in the year, it may have been different. But for me, I desperately missed the track time early doors, and it spirals. Your confidence goes down. You start doubting yourself. You start doubting your equipment. You start testing things, and then you go in that horrible vicious circle that every rider has done it in their career. And any new rider that comes through, I guarantee you'll go through it because it's impossible not to. And it was tough. It was a real tough year. But at least the Emil incident was there. I just wish we were on royalties because we'd be quite wealthy off the back of it.
I think it's quite ironic, isn't it? Because the two most memorable moments in Grand Prix for a lot of people are probably your clash with Emil and, of course, the infamous night when Craig Bush decided to deck Thomas Gollop at Hackney.
Exactly. And I'll put you on the spot here then. Who won the finals, respectively, in those years?
Ooh. I think Greg Hancock won the one in '95.
Yeah.
And the Cardiff one, I think, was Crumpy.
It was. Well done. I can see someone in the background there trying to look it up on the internet, but obviously your browser's a bit.
I need to get out more. Of course, moving on from then.
Now you know why I didn't do very well in that BSPI quiz. Yes.
We were going to
get back. I bailed out.
You went back to Ipswich, of course, in 2010, and I think that was Ipswich's last year in the top flight until last year. And I think by that stage, Ipswich were maybe struggling a little bit in the top flight, you know, not really able to be as competitive as they had been during your earlier stint there. So that came to an end. Ipswich moved down into the Premier League, what's now the Championship, and then you moved to Swindon in 2011.
Another great year for me.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I did. I went back to Ipswich and it was good. I enjoyed my time back there. You know, it was good just to get familiar again, get comfortable, and enjoy my racing. And you know, I made the decision to go to Swindon. And it's, you know, every rider probably has a bogey track, and Swindon was one of those tracks for me that I didn't dislike. Just didn't dislike the track. It was I enjoyed the track, but it was kind of hit and miss for me. And I went there trying to fill Lee Adams' shoes, and I don't think there's anyone in the world that could fill his shoes around there. But I was determined to give it a good go, and I struggled. I really found it hard. And it wasn't the pressure of trying to fill his shoes. I just really struggled to get things going, and it was tough. You know, week in, week out, I gave it my best shot, but obviously the fans were frustrated, and I understand that. But I think it was that year I won, I don't remember which one it was, but I won another British final, and I think that for me was probably the most special British final ever, because I needed that. My confidence had been splattered on the floor. And every rider goes through this. You start doubting too many things. You start doubting yourself, and you find it. The racing is a frustration. It's not a chore. Speedway should be, and it is, the easiest job in the world when everything's going right. But when it's not, trust me, it's mentally, it's one of the toughest. And so that British final for me that year was I desperately wanted that, and that meant a lot to me, that one.
And then a 2-year spell back at Coventry again, of course, and then the move to Bellevue. And of course, your time at Bellevue sort of transcended with them ending the time at Kirkmanshire Lane and then moving into the National Speedway Stadium in 2016. So that must have been a big deal for you as well.
It was. I really enjoyed my time at Bellevue. It was a fair old trek, and you know, and I think it's fair to say, I think it's quite common knowledge that I preferred the old track, just purely because of my style and the way the track suited me. I really enjoyed it. But you know what, the new track, I can't take anything away from it. It is a fantastic track. There was a piece in the Speedway Star, and obviously it didn't document everything that I said. It was kind of obviously had to be cut down, and it felt like I was criticising track. I'm not. The track is an unbelievable track, and trust me, I love riding it when I'm in front, but just being in front hasn't happened a lot for me there, and it bloody hurts when you're a bit sorry if I swore there. It hurts when you're behind. But it is, I mean, track-wise, it is a brilliant track, but it is total chalk and cheese to the other one. The old Bellevue Kirkmanshire Lane was a technical track. It was more down to, ride it. Not saying I'm fantastic on a bike, but it was come down more to track craft and skill as opposed to raw out and out speed. And I enjoyed that. But you know what? The new one is home of British Speedway right now, and rightfully so.
Of course, the British final obviously there now, but of course before that, the British final was at my club, Wolverhampton, and Wolverhampton was a track that you've always done pretty well at as well. It's a track that is a bit like Bellevue, or the old Bellevue, that it was a technical track and sort of suited your style a bit better. And I think you won 2 or 3 of your British championships at Monmouth, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I don't remember it all. Yeah, it is a track that. It's a track that is much more of a technical track, and it's much more of a skill track, and really have to read the track and the lines. And I really enjoyed Wolverhampton. Well, I still do. I did win a few there. I think I won at Eastbourne, I think, and I actually won a British final at Swindon as well. So that was quite a big deal for me. But it is. I enjoy the smaller, more technical tracks just because that suits my style, and I enjoy those more. But having said that, I mean, I've ridden some big out-and-out tracks in Poland that have been very fast, and I've equally enjoyed those.
Well, we always hoped that we would see you riding for Wolverhampton at some point, and of course we had to wait until last year. And of course, you did come in at the start of the season, and to be fair, you did pretty well. I mean, obviously, I think, were you always aware that it was going to be a short-term thing until Jakob Torsell and Nick Morris came back, or was there something in your mind where you thought, if I can impress Chris and Pete here, then maybe they'll keep me on for the rest of the season?
Of course, I mean, I knew I was coming as a replacement, but there's always there's that chance that you're doing a good job and you may stay. And then obviously, depending on when those respective riders came back, is all the team averages come into play, etc., etc. So for me, I wanted to stay for the whole season. I was given an opportunity to be there, and Wolverhampton's a club I've wanted to race for a long time. I've enjoyed it. I think it's a very professionally run club, and I've had a lot of respect for the people there. So I would love to stay for the year, of course I would. But you know what, I was grateful for the opportunity because in the winter I didn't have a team, so I took it with both hands and did the best job I could, and I felt like I did a decent job the time I was there.
And of course, Leicester last season. I mean, Leicester had a few difficult seasons, if you like, in the top flight, but last season going there, they dropped back down into the championship, and it was a wonderful season down there at Beaumont Leys.
It was. They had a brilliant season, and they deserved that. I mean, it's a bit like you were saying with Ipswich earlier. They kind of struggled to find their feet in the top league for a while, dropped down to the now championship, and Leicester did the same. And I don't think it's a backward step. It's almost like riders. Sometimes you need to change your scene. You need to take a step backwards to get things back on track, fresh things. And Leicester did that, and I enjoyed it. The club was run well. Stuart Dixon's a great team manager. We had a brilliant atmosphere within the team, which I think is a huge part of any team. I enjoyed the track, another technical track. A lot of riders struggle to go there, and I think that's what gives you a good home track advantage. If the other teams, if their heads already slightly dip when they get there, that puts you on the front step straight away.
I mean, Leicester gets a fair amount of stick from a lot of Speedway fans for what people say is the lack of racing there. I mean, is it a track that you enjoy racing?
It is, and I would disagree with that. I would say that a regular Leicester fan who went there would see some great passing week in, week out. I know for myself, I passed a number of riders around there. It's not the easiest track to pass on, but then that's what makes it more special to me. That's what makes it a home track, and that's also what then gives riders the opportunity to show their track craft and their skill on the track, as opposed to just being able to, be flat out and hang on like a windsock. I think it's when a rider can one way the track up, but also can read the other riders, can perhaps sometimes, put them in a position they want them to be in so they can make the move. And I think that's where you actually get to see some great riders shine around places like Leicester.
Well, I think we've got through your British League career. Now let's talk about your time in the in the GPs.
We have to.
We always say that till the end, Scott. When you look back on your GP career, do you feel a sense of frustration that you never managed to, sort of get
Win
closer
one.
to the dream of winning the? I mean, you got second on a couple of occasions, didn't you? And I think the one that I particularly remember, I think, was in Sydney when you got to the final, and I think it was your first podium as well, and very nearly pipped Greg Hancock on the line to win it.
Yeah, that was unbelievably close. That was the first year, and no, and I think there's a lot to be said from. Unfortunately, I didn't win a Grand Prix. I mean, that's probably going to be one of the things that I'll take to my grave, is that I didn't win a Grand Prix. I know I should have done. I know I'm capable of doing it, but it didn't happen. And I think had I have done that, maybe that would have given me that little bit more self-belief and would have kick-started things a little bit. I mean, look how long it took Lee Adams to win one, and then he won one, and then he started to win a few more back-to-back. And, Lee Adams, a rider we all know was sensational, was probably the best rider to never win a world championship. So I saw what it did for him, but, you try not to have regrets in life, but I look back and I made mistakes. I was too loyal to certain people and certain things. I wasn't ruthless enough with engine tuners and setups and things like that. But I can't wind the clock back now. You know what? I gave it my best shot on the track. I did the best I could. If I could rewind the clock and do it all over again, would I do things different? 100% I would do things differently. And that's life. And we do those things. That's why, if I can, what knowledge I have gained from mistakes I've made or whatever, I'll try to hand that on to the younger riders coming through, because there's not always opportunity out there for people to give you that advice. And some people like to keep things to themselves and like to let people find it out for themselves. And other people want to help people. And I think I see a lot of riders coming through that there's a balance. So I had some fantastic times in the Grand Prix, and I'm very privileged and honoured to have been in those, and to go places like Australia and stuff like that. But not winning one will always be a tough one to swallow.
When you talk about the younger riders, I mean, we've got some pretty good young riders coming through the British system now. I mean, you think back to you're sort of when you were in your prime. I mean, it was really you and Bomber that sort of carried the flight for Britain at international level, and then Ty had to do it afterwards. But you're seeing guys like Robert Lambert and Dan Bewley come through. So there's hope now for British Speedway that we can start to be more competitive and maybe get close to finally getting a gold medal in an international event. It'll be fantastic, and it is long overdue.
Oh, it certainly is, and we do. We have some great little riders out there. And hopefully, I know there's people trying hard to try and do more. You've got the No Limit schools and things like that where they're trying to get the younger riders, and that's what we need. I mean, Robert Lambert, he's doing well for himself. He could still probably be grateful for a little bit of help and guidance and support along the way. And Dan Bullion likes that. And then you've got the Thompson twins and people like that. They're the ones we need to get hold of, and the young ones like that, which is why I've kind of been banging the drum to get into those people. You need the kids tracks, you need the junior tracks. That's where you need to get the young kids in, like almost pre-teen kids. I mean, I was very fortunate when I was around, it was more kind of me, Paul Harris, Miles Clayton, Ben Howe, all those riders. We grew up on the junior tracks. Mildenhall had one which was close to me, it's about half an hour away from where I live, and Eastbourne had one which they've just brought back. That's the tracks you need to get the kids on. It's fun and it's great for a kid to ride around, but a kid is not really going an awful lot on a 150cc bike going around a 300-metre track. It's got to do it in proportion. But we have some great riders coming through, and I think the quicker we can tap into them and then start getting those guys experience abroad is what we need, because Britain as a nation have always been great on home soil, but we've always struggled to travel, and I think that's something we need to really work hard
on. You mentioned earlier about mental toughness and how it's a tough business being a speedway rider, and over the recent seasons we've seen a few riders that have appeared to be these are going to be the next White Hope sort of thing. I'm thinking of people like Zach Vitenek and Jack Parker Jack
Parkins and Blackbird.
That's the one. Thank you very much. God, JP as we say. And they've seemed to be lost to the sport from mental issues, and of course there was the problems with Danny Ayres as well. how do we get riders past that? How do we bring them up so that we look after them?
It is really tough. I mean, fortunately, on Twitter, there's a site there, Fuel Your Mind, which is there's a group of people actively trying very hard to try and get that. You know what? It's a tough one. I mean, I think a lot of people are experiencing a lot of psychological issues right now, being in this lockdown. You know, being stuck in four walls, and you know, I've kind of put little bits on social media now and again about talking and stuff. And the two things are, is I think it's a lot of the time men seem to have this macho image that, you know, we can't talk and I can deal with it and da-da-da. You know what, 9 times out of 10, the ones that have got that bravado are the ones that can't handle it. And they're the ones that end up, you know, sad things happen. But it's, you know, what can you do? You can try and get the awareness out there. You can try and make it common knowledge, and you can, you know, you just got to try and be there for each other and support each other. At the end of the day, you can lead the horse to the stream, but you can't make him drink. And I think we've got a lot more support out there. I think now, given the situations like we've had sadly with Danny Ayres and Tony Dart and now Blair Scott, that maybe clubs will start to maybe be a bit more proactive with doing something, you know, at the start of the season, whenever this season gets going, that, you know, you can talk, okay, any guys, you know, you're struggling, talk. I mean, I think it's just being open, and I think that's where, you know, men just need to maybe drop this kind of bravado image and actually open up a little bit.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with that. Have you finished, Matt, by the way? Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Have we got any questions that come up on the show box?
We've got absolutely hundreds, and I really do apologise to a lot of people. I'm going to really have to cherry pick a few of these.
But before you go down there, Chris, sorry, I just wanted to ask Scott, in the lead up to today, what do you think is the question that people have wanted to know most?
Oh, mate, I've got the shirt on already. It's going to be the shirt.
I've not actually seen that one, to be honest. So
everybody has been talking to me about Emil Safutinov.
All right.
Okay. Fire away.
Okay, I'll pick a few of these, and then I'll go back to some earlier ones. But Will Jordan said, "I wonder if you're going to like the Kent Kings track," says Will Gordon.
It's not really a question, is it?
No, are you going to like it? I think
so am I. Well, I bloody hope so. I've just signed for them.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to. Yeah.
You know, that's the excitement for me. It's a new track. I've never ridden it. Man, life. I've been around a long time. I want new challenges.
That was something I was going to ask you, actually, Scott, because obviously I had the honour of announcing you and then interviewing you at the end of season do last year. And I was just wondering, at this stage of your career, how exciting is it to actually go to a track that you've never seen before?
Mate, really exciting, and what I know, it is a more of a smaller technical track where, you know, it's a bit of a home track advantage. So for me, that's something I'm really looking forward to. It's I hope I dial it in, and then that's the challenge that excites me.
Jim wants to know, after Speedway, are you planning on a media career?
Do you know what? I really don't know. I would love to, but it's a very, very tough industry. So I'm keeping doors open. There'll be something coming out this week. I'm doing a little thing with Andy J for a radio thing. So keep your eyes on that. But I'm just trying different things. I never say never.
Never say never, no, don't blame me. A lot of people are on the same sort of theme here. Susan Jordan says, after your Speedway career ends, they'll want you to end your Speedway career. It would be great to see you coach the up-and-coming British lads. Any thoughts? And can you come before you retire, race for Birmingham?
Well, you know what? I've pretty much ridden for nearly every club in the country. So by the time I hang up, I probably will have achieved that. I'd love to. I think I've said it earlier in the show that I enjoy helping people, and I'd love to help the young kids. But it's and I've been trying to do bits and pieces behind the scenes. Like I said, you've got the No Limits project there. I'd love for our governing body to throw more support at it. Finances needed to do that. Man Live, if there's an opportunity to do a proper program, I'd love to do it.
Yeah. Scotty, the BSPA are trying 100% to get some form of racing this season, as there could be riders missing. Do you think 3 teams tourney format, league matches would work better, as you could race two matches in one night in the Premier and give riders more rides and more matches in a week?
You know what?
Whoa.
I think right now, I think everybody just desperately wants to get racing. But sadly, it's out of our hands. You know, first and foremost, we need to look after our health and make sure this pandemic is sorted out. And our health is our priority. There's no point trying to rush through this season and everyone can't make next season. But that's out of our hands. The government have a big say on that. I think once we know what's what, then we can push forward ahead. But let's face it, every sport is in the same boat.
Another one here from Eric. He says, "Hi Scott, what's your views on Chris Harris and design of bike he's using? Your thoughts, please."
It's different. Be honest, I wasn't a fan of it, of what I saw. But then it could just looks wise. I mean, it looked a bit out of proportion, and it was basically a long track bike replicated into a speedway bike. But, you know, it's individuals. He obviously likes it, and if it's something he likes and other people do, then it will take off. Personally, no respect, Chris. Sorry about that, but I'm not a fan.
Sean wants to know, Scott, what's it like to ride on a British Godden engine?
Hey, it's really cool. You know what? It's cool to see another engine coming up and trying to challenge. And Gary and Ben, mechanics me, who works for Godden, he's been working really hard, but he's taking his time with it. And it's really cool. It's a really, really nice engine to ride. It's just such a shame that the season can't get underway and do more. But I took it in France, did some testing on it, and it was nice to ride, really nice to ride.
Jack's also trying to kill you off. Scott, every year, just about, there is a rumour going around at Foxhall that you might become involved on promoting side of the business. Do you see yourself becoming a promoter at some time? He's certain you will do a great job, says Jack Wright.
Well, thank you. And as we're short on time, no.
Caroline wants to know, Scott, what's your favourite speedway track?
Oh man, I get asked all the time. There is so many, and you know, okay, this will give you an example of polar opposites. Really like Wolverhampton here, Leicester, all those places, Eastbourne, Lakeside. But then in Poland, I used to love racing at Rzeszów, which is like a full on out and out fast track. So I don't have a favourite, which is not a bad thing. Sorry.
No, just another couple more. From Richard, hardest rider you've ever ridden against?
Oh man, geez, there's a lot of them.
We're going to be talking about Emil Seifertinoff in a minute, I'm sure.
Okay. I'll put them into a bracket, but it's the likes of Emil. So your Emils, your Nickies, Hans and stuff. There's riders, Chris Harris. There's riders that, or more so like with Nicky and people, you don't know where they're coming from. Which that's when it's really tough, you know. But at the same time, Nicky, when he gets too excited, can be quite easy to read because you know what he's going to do. But yeah, I've had some good battles with Nicky over the years, though. To be fair.
Oh, okay.
Do you think, looking at the GPs now, Scott? I mean, you know, Nicky was always perceived as being the bad boy of Speedway, if you like, and I think all sports need a bad boy. Do you think the GPs are poorer place without him? Not being disrespectful to the riders that are in it, but there's not really anybody in there that you would think has been someone who's controversial and the pantomime villain.
Oh, you need the panto villain, don't you? It's a shame when he came back in that year that he kind of couldn't get up to speed with them, you know. But Nicky's I think it's a worse place without the likes of Nicky, or you know, without the likes of Thomas when he was at his rebellious stage, or even when he was still a ruthless rider. I think you need that. But I think also the way things are going within the world now, with the massive, with the kind of the corporate involvement, but with the social media presence and everything, that sometimes it takes away a little bit of the personality of people sometimes.
Of course, talking about
last one.
Go for it.
Last one. Will Jordan says, what would you like to change to a speedway bike, if you could?
Oh God. It'd be nice to go back a little bit in a way. I think that the bikes, the way they are now, they're such a light switch in terms of where the power delivery and the optimum performance window is so small now. I mean, they're super quick when they go, but you know, you can make such a small alteration and totally change the characteristic of the bike. But so real briefly, this has been a bit of a Twitter debate about a rider weight combined package like they do in a lot of other sports. And, you know, I'm a fan of it to a degree because I'm one of the bigger riders and it swings in my advantage sometimes. But I think, especially with the Grand Prix, you've got these riders that are the world's best riders, and you're talking literally 1% and 2% difference between them. Well, when you've got power to weight ratio, if you've got a rider that's say 60 kilos, another rider that's 70 kilos, that's 10 kilos of difference. So I'm a fan of just trying to level it out a little bit. I appreciate you can't put too much weight on a bike because a bike will handle badly. But I remember way back there's a minimum bike weight limit, and we used to put weights right low down on the engine plate. So center of gravity was low, didn't affect the handling of the bike. And I think it just perhaps makes it a little bit more of a level playing field. But in terms of altering the bikes, lay down handle much better than the uprights, I would probably be inclined to going back to a slightly longer stroke and put the normal silencer back on. I think that would just make the bike perform better and give you a much kind of an even field.
Matt?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought he was waiting to say something. Sorry.
I was waiting for GA, actually, I think so.
All right, sorry, yeah, then yeah. Mike?
I totally forgot what I was going to say now, but I will find something else to say. Let's go back to, we need to examine that a little bit more about that Hans Andersen incident in the World Cup 2004. Maybe you could remind everybody about that.
It came down. I don't remember the points difference. Well, I know we end up losing by 1 point. Going to the last race, it was. I remember it was myself, Hans Andersen, and Peter Carlson. I don't even remember who the fourth rider was, to be fair, because it was obviously the focus was on us. I'm sure he'll take to his grave that he didn't, but it distinctly looked to me like there was team riding going on. He rode for the same team in Sweden as PK at Morlilla, and he was like a roadblock. Keeping me out of the way, and instead of just riding the race, I felt I had the speed, and yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow because I already had all the kind of frustration of that red light incident, and it was down to I could have redeemed myself. I could have won the world title for Team GB, and we lost by a point. So yeah, I don't think I was the only person that was annoyed that night.
I mean, I've watched that over today, as you can imagine, in preparation for today, and he definitely looked over. He definitely looked over.
Should have watched it live. You want to watch it live? Yeah. I can remember that. I remember it vividly. Yeah.
He definitely looked over, and he definitely looked over, and then off went the throttle.
Maybe he can redeem himself. If you're out there listening, Hans, come on, chip in. Let us know.
Yeah.
Me.
We're selling tickets for that one.
Yeah. Can't change anything, can it?
I'm going to tell you a little story, actually, Scott, about the first time my lads saw Speedway, which was in 2007, when it was announced that, actually it was 2006, because it was announced that Birmingham was coming back in 2007. So I wanted to give them a taste of what Speedway was like. So I went down to Coventry. You've no idea how difficult that was. And to watch the Knockout Cup final, Bellevue against Coventry.
Yeah.
And the lads enjoyed the match, but halfway through there was your normal break, and Jason Crump was out there signing lots and lots of autographs. And my oldest asked me, "Who's that?" And I said, "That's Jason Crump. He's the world champion." He said, "He says, can I get Scott Nicholls' autograph?"
He's got taste then.
Oh, he's got something.
I just hope Crumpy's not listening.
Yeah, talking of. Sorry, Matt.
Were you surprised, Scott, when you heard that Jason was coming out of retirement to ride for Ipswich? Because I mean, he rode in that Test series back in January in Australia, and to be honest, it didn't surprise me greatly.
No, well, I suppose when you look at that, when you kind of connect the dots, he didn't in that respect. But no, it did massively surprise me, just because, you know, he'd been out in the sport for a while. He kind of finished the sport semi-tour injury, really. So being in his later years in life, I kind of thought that he would maybe opt to take the safer option and avoid that. But I believe his son was going to be doing a support class in the superbikes over here, so he would have been here. So it kind of made sense, I suppose, that if and also with the league structure being a Monday, Thursday, he would have still been free for the weekends for his son's racing. But obviously, that's all up in the air and out the window right now.
Absolutely. How are you coping with the lockdown, Scott?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good, actually. It's feel like we were saying earlier about the mental health side of things and stuff, and I think it's massively important to try and have some sort of routine. You know, I think it's for me, I get up, I still put an alarm on. I don't get up mega early, but still put an alarm on to get up at a sensible time in the morning, go for a run or go and do some exercise, do something, come back, and then, you know what, I'm just doing bits and pieces that kind of learning things that I never got around to doing. I've got a camera. I'm kind of just looking through that, just learn a little bit about photography, just doing just things just to try and stimulate my mind and give me actually something to do and something to focus on. I'd love to work. I'd love to have a job, but right now, you know, very limited on what you can do. So I'm actually doing okay. I've got the routine going and talking to people, regularly in contact over the phone, stuff like that. And that helps.
Perfect. And then obviously getting invited onto shows like this. So I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, doesn't it?
It's a pleasure. It's been fun.
Have we got any more questions on the shout box, Chris?
Just a couple. Susan says, Scott Nicholls, you're a legend. You're so good. You're so good with the media. I don't know whether she means that we're media, but maybe I don't know. Yeah, there you go.
Doubt it.
And Gerard says, "Hi, Scotty."
Hello. How are you?
There you go. And I do apologise. I've missed lots of comments at the beginning, and for some reason I can't get them back. So there you go. I do apologise.
Remind us again why we employ you, Chris.
Exactly, yeah. And there has been around 200 or so comments so far, so it's been a bit busy one. Sean says, ask him how his Freddie Mercury training is going.
It's going great guns. I've just got to get the hair and makeup done, and we'll be ready to go. Hoovering's boring, so I've got to do a few lunges while I'm doing it. Just get a little bit of a home workout in there.
Careful, we might ask to see evidence.
Don't tempt me, I'm bored right now. Not right now, I'm actually having a whale of time right now, but prior to this, I was bored.
Yeah. I've got another one as well. Scott says, Duncan, Maya wants to go to a training school. What do you do?
Begs my question about us having these I believe, don't quote me, I believe actually at Scunthorpe they do have kind of some sort of like a ride and slide facility, which for me that would be the thing that I would love to have more than anything, where people can just pay, a bit like a go-karting place. People can pay and play, and if they like it, okay, you can go and buy a bike and the kit and do it. But so if there was one thing I could really change in Speedway, it would be to have more kids pay and play places for the likes of children like that.
Isn't that what they do in Denmark, or something similar?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they do the pay. I'm sure they do. Yeah, they do actually the pay and play, and in Sweden as well. I mean, you look at a lot of the Swedish tracks. If they've not got the junior track on the infield, then it will be in the corner somewhere. That nearly every track in Sweden has got like the kids track where they have the little 80cc's. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of the 80cc's. I think a 4-stroke is a better bike to use, but nonetheless, they've got the facility there, and hence why I suppose Sweden and Denmark had this flock of riders coming through for a long time.
Another couple of questions coming in here.
Okay.
Barney says, well, oh, crikey, it's going fast now. Barney says, welcome to the Kent Kings, Scott. And Gerard says, ask Scott, does he remember going to see the lady in the stand at Peterborough? And it made her year. We're
not after 9 o'clock yet, are we? I can't really say what happened. Yes, I do. It was her birthday, and I went up and gave her a kiss and wished her a happy birthday.
That's made her year. And Stephen says, say hi to your father, Tommy, from me. That's Stephen Zetterwall.
Okay, hello, Tommy. That's my dad. Hi, Dad. How are you? He won't be listening. He doesn't know technology. He can't even work a calculator.
The last one for the time being, from Craig's Me. What do you make of the current situation at Brandon and the latest fire to hit the site? Do you think it's the final nail in the coffin for the campaign group to bring Coventry Speedway back to Brandon? Or should they maybe look at an alternative site if possible?
I certainly hope not. All I can say is I really hope it's not. I'd be devastated if Speedway went to Brandon. Find another site, great, but I think that's sadly probably way easier said than done. So I think focus on trying to keep Speedway at Brandon would be fantastic.
I think Cradley would echo that situation.
It is worryingly reminiscent of the situation at Cradley, wasn't it? Because Cradley closed and there was all about 4 or 5 years of sort of wrangling and were they not going to get back there. And as that was going on, the stadium got trashed and fires and things like that. And in the end, of course, it didn't work out. And Cradley, 25 years later on, still haven't got a place of their own. I think you've been back to Brandon a couple of times, haven't you, Scott? I mean, it's for someone like yourself who had such, as we talked earlier about, you had some great times of your career riding for Coventry. It must have been really heartbreaking to see the condition of the stadiums in there.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's devastating to go there. I mean, it's, Coventry was always a well-presented stadium. It was getting old, it was getting tired, of course, but it was still such a great stadium to go to. And when you go there and you see, the floodlights are gone, the track is overgrown, windows are smashed, and that was heartbreaking. Like you say, I've had so many good memories there. But I was of the later generation there. I mean, look at the history of Coventry Speedway and, the successful riders and managers that have been there, the kind of the history that club has. It'd be devastating for it to go. So, I really hope, I know Jeff and the crew behind him are doing absolutely everything they can to try and save Coventry Speedway. And I certainly wish them all the best for that.
I think, was it the title decider in 1979 when there was 25,000 in the stadium for the match against Hull? I mean, that just tells you the history that place has got, really.
Well, and also, do you know what? Okay, so I'll a quick one, doing the radio thing. So spoke to this is how synonymous Coventry Speedway. So Eddie Jordan, famous F1 team. He was a massive fan, or still is a massive fan of Speedway. He regularly used to go to Coventry, loved the Coventry Cradley derbies and stuff like that. So, when you've got people of that caliber who hold Coventry highly, then that just sort of goes to show just how special Brandon was.
Well, he's got a bit of money. Let's get him in there. I don't want to end on such a low sort of note. So perhaps we could take you a little bit back down to when you first started going to Speedway at Ipswich. Who were the riders as a lad when you was growing up that you sort of thought, this is what I want to do?
Well, Jeremy Doncaster being a local guy, and I mean, he used to come around and use my dad's lathe and stuff. So I remember, as a young kid, just sort of standing there like, just looking. Jeremy Doncaster, he's in my workshop. But John Cook, Cowboy Cook, was just the rider that for me, when I went to Ipswich Speedway and just watched what he did on the bike, as he was as a rider and how he was with the fans, he was the man that I was like, wow, that is so cool. He's just such a showman. And he was the rider. That would have been like mid to late 80s. And he was a rider that really kind of did it for me.
Brilliant. Well, Scotty, thank you so very much.
Just before we go, do you want to give a shout out to any of your sponsors, Scott?
I was just going to say, yeah.
Go on.
Do you know all of it? Everybody. I'm not going to name check everybody, but more importantly, what I really want to say is I hope everybody out there, fans, riders, whoever, they're keeping their spirits up. They're staying positive. They're staying safe and doing everything they should be doing. And hopefully we can all come out of this very soon and get back to racing. And you never know, you may drag me back on here and answer some more questions.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll think up a few more.
Definitely.
Nice ones.
Yeah. Well, here's a nice one for you, because we have got a couple more minutes. I've been reading lots of reports from different sorts of promoters that seem to think, now this is a horrible thing that we're going through at the moment. Of course it is. But do you agree with them that there is a possibility for promoting our sport even more when we come down of lockdown, that this could be an opportunity that people are going to be wanting their sport, this might be an opportunity to actually increase the people coming to watch?
I certainly hope so. You know what? I think it's Speedway. The one thing Speedway has is definite. It's a family sport. It's definite. There's none of the kind of stereotypical violence or you get with some other sports, stuff like that. So, you know what? There's definitely a sense of closeness as a result of this. Whenever there's a negative, you can always have a positive. So, if when we come out of this, there's more people turn up at the Speedway, then that'll be fantastic.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we'll say thank you very much, Scotty. Mate, you are welcome to come and join anytime you like.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Scott. Not a problem. It's been brilliant.
Cheers, Scotty.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye.
To the Speedway Tavern. enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink.